Hey everybody, this is Amy Wells, Titans Amy from the Tennessee Titans.
This is Nate Bain, Titans social media manager.
Hey everybody, it's Brett Bryan, game day host of Titans Radio, and you're listening to the Titans of the Southwest podcast with Lito and Big Mo.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Titans of the Southwest podcast. This is your host, Big Mo. With me, as always, is my partner, Lito. We're doing something a little bit different this week. We weren't able to record the preview during the middle of the week like we usually do. We did record some awesome content, but that'll be released probably early next week. So we're going to do the recap today, which is Saturday, and we have some new information that will help us with the preview too. So, Lito, what's going on, man? How you doing?
I'm doing great, man. I'm excited for the game tomorrow. It's the Jaguars. It's the Jaguars. I mean, everybody knows everything that's at stake with the Jaguars and the Jaguars fans. When it comes right down to it, for the team to battle, they win tomorrow. They lead the division, and we can shut up the Jaguars fans for another few weeks until we play them again. I mean, we were talking about it earlier. They haven't beat us in around 600 days, so it's just going to extend the streak a little bit. So I'm really excited about that. But yeah, we had some great interviews throughout the week. It was more than we were ready for, more than we thought it was going to be. Let's say it like that. It was more than we planned for. So yeah. We're just going to release that throughout the week. All that stuff was so good. It was just, it's standalone material. That can be episodes by themselves. So I'm excited about all of it.
Yeah, same here, man. And I'm looking forward to the game tomorrow, too, against the Jags. I think, all things considered, it could be a monster win with us. I mean, we're coming off the tail end of a monster win against Houston when the odds were stacked against us, being down a lot of our key cornerstone pieces. I think the matchup's starting to look nice against Jacksonville. Other people, for whatever reason, they're favoring the Jags to beat us. Like, I think I saw one prediction of 30-10. I haven't come across anybody that's picking the Titans to win tomorrow. And I think a lot of that has to do with the uncertainty of who's going to be quarterback throughout the week, as you know, and I know you've been keeping up with it too. We've seen progress with Mariota. He took the bulk of the snaps, first team reps, which is a good sign. It's an optimistic sign. It doesn't necessarily guarantee he will be the starter, but I would imagine if they were gearing towards a Blaine Gabbert type game plan, it would have been a more even split. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing who's going to be active tomorrow. We did find out today that one key player that's going to be out is going to be Kamalei Correa. He's been awesome so far since joining the team. I mean, 2 sacks in 2 games. That's solid production that I think we'll miss tomorrow. But we could see maybe Evans show up tomorrow, maybe in a limited capacity, maybe in some situational type pass rusher roles. I'm excited, man. I'm looking forward to see what the game plan's gonna be.
Yeah, and even with Correa out, I mean, we got Morgan back on this game, if I'm not mistaken. Finch has already stepped up, good enough to be, positive depth for us. And like you said, Evans coming back, so it's not like we're in a dire situation with him out. If it was going to happen any week, this is the week where it would happen and it would be okay. Like we're fine.
And I think also the biggest name is Harold Landry, man. I mean, the influence and the impact he had from week 1 to week 2. I mean, week 1 he didn't see no snaps. Week 2 he saw a handful of snaps and was a big time contributor, man. And he helped the production of the others along the defensive line. So with Correa being out, it's going to mean more of Landry, which is a good thing. You know what I mean?
Oh, definitely. He had, 5 pressures last week?
He had a ton of pressures, man. And like the impact he was having on the offensive line was, I mean, that's not something the box score is ever going to capture, man. He was a difference maker for sure. If we go into that game and Landry's out, I'm not so sure we come away with the win. That's how much of an impact I think he had on the defensive front.
Oh, wow. That's going to be interesting to see because, I mean, there's not going to be as big of a drop-off for whenever Rack or Morgan needs breathers. And I mean, we're going to be able to just kind of keep pedal to the metal the whole game. Yeah. So that's going to be really, really fun. And just the development of Evans, obviously, to go along with the rest of our monster defense. Not even to mention Jarrell Casey. I mean, it's harsh because Casey gets overlooked by the national media, and then he's almost getting looked by fans because it's like we have all these great new toys, but we forget that we have this awesome, solid piece right there in the middle that's just disrupting everything constantly, and he's going to continue to do that, including all of our new awesome pieces. So I don't know. I think people love the Jags and they have a little crush on them for one reason or another, but our team is not specifically geared to beat the Jaguars, but these types of teams, we are the Jaguars' kryptonite. I mean, that's just the way it is. So I don't see a blowout win or anything like that. Like, I'm thinking 26-21 kind of thing. Like, we're still going to get them, and it's not going to be a last-second field goal, but we'll get them. I don't have really any doubts in my mind on that.
Well, I'm feeling pretty good about it, man. And like I said, it all really depends on the personnel we have. I mean, we found out Luan's clear. He cleared the concussion protocol. So he'll be there, which is I think that's going to open up a little bit more in terms of the passing game with Blaine. I think last week they didn't really plan on him, taking big, deep dropbacks to find deep passes. They didn't plan on that because of uncertainty with the tackles, how they were going to play and how they were going to handle the Texans' defensive front. I think they liked what they saw, and I mean, it was positive. They had a practice squad guy and a backup guy go in there and play a hell of a game against a pretty solid Texans defensive front. I think with Luan back, that opens up a lot. They'll maybe dial up a few passes for Blaine to kind of test the secondary of Jags, which might not seem like the best of ideas, but last year he did it when he was with the Cardinals. He threw the ball, and I mean, yeah, he committed one turnover, but he did some good things through the air last year. In looking at the Jaguars, they lost Cam Robinson last week for the season, who was their starting left tackle. Now they lost him for the year with the torn ACL, and they had Josh Wells, I believe, was the backup tackle that took his place against the Patriots. And I mean, from what I saw, he did decent. I mean, he didn't allow a sack on the left side, but he did allow a ton of pressures, man. That's the biggest thing. He was getting pushed back from a New England Patriots defensive line that doesn't really have any standout pieces, that jump off the paper or even jump off the tape. And I think that's where a lot of the information can get lost. If you don't watch the tape and you don't see who the teams are playing beforehand and look at each position group and how they measure up against the position group they're going against, you don't really have a full understanding. So considering the Jaguars, week 1, they have New York Giants. I picked the Giants to edge out a win against Jacksonville, and it almost came to that. Had there not been a defensive touchdown, Jacksonville would have lost. It would have been 0-1. But, that's just how the game fell. Now, in week 2, they lose Robinson. They don't have Fournette available because he got injured. And, I mean, they still... credit to the game plan. They decided to let Bortles air it out some, and they decided to use TJ Yeldon a lot out of the backfield as a back and a receiver, who did a pretty solid job too. He's been questionable this week. I mean, the last report I saw, he was questionable with an ankle, so that's kind of big. I think a lot of Bortles' play last week kind of got blown out of proportion a little bit. He threw for 377 yards, 3 or 4 touchdowns. I forgot the stat, but did throw 1 pick, and he did it against a Patriots secondary who has struggled this year so far. And when you look at the day he had through the air, you look at some of the catches that his receivers were making. I mean, they were making some spectacular catches, which isn't going to happen every time. You know that. I mean, we've been witness to that ourselves. That spectacular catches aren't going to happen on a consistent basis on any team, even with Odell Beckham. You know what I mean? He doesn't make a spectacular, phenomenal catch every single week. But there were a few that Jacksonville made against the Patriots. Now, the Jaguars admitted, at least one of their players admitted that the Titans were the only team that they didn't have an answer for last year. Of every single team they faced, were the only team they didn't have an answer for. It ate away at them that we swept them. So heading into this year, into the 2018 season, we definitely were 2 dates circled on their calendars. They do want to get over the hump and try to beat us. It's not going to be easy because, to me, the defensive line that we have, defensive front that we have going against Jacksonville is going to be arguably the toughest defensive front that they faced so far. And I would even venture to say that our secondary will be the toughest secondary group that they faced over the past 3 weeks. So it's not going to be a walk in the park like a lot of the national media pundits are making it seem to be. I never put too much credence into what they say anyways, because they base a lot of what they see on box scores and what did you do last year. So Jags made it the AFC Championship last year. They must be good. I'll pick a few box stats and I'll use that to justify my point. When in reality, that's not the case, man. I mean, I'm not sure if you read the piece I wrote this week too, but the last time Bortles threw for over 370 yards was last season in Week 16 against the San Francisco 49ers. He threw like 380, like over 380 yards, 4 touchdowns to 1 interception, had a monster day, but they still lost 33-44 to the 49ers. The following week, he had a horrible day. He followed that performance with a horrible day through the air, and it was against us. It was against the Titans, man. He had like a 50 or 40% passer completion rating. Threw for 158 yards, no touchdowns to 2 interceptions. I mean, that's the Bortle that we have seen more often than not when he's gone against us. He never shreds us, and anytime he has big-time passing yards or a big-time passing performance on the stat line against us, it was usually in garbage time when the game was already out of reach, and he was playing against our, like, third-tier defenders. So I think tomorrow's game is going to be a lot closer, man, than we think. I'm picking us, and you know me. I told you last week if I'm not gonna make score predictions, and I'm superstitious. You're not stitious. You mentioned that last week, but I'm not gonna put concrete numbers. But I do think we win, and I'm saying it's at least 10 points.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can see that. I mean, with all of the things going on between the two teams, it's going to be a defensive showdown is what I'm looking at, and then what I am going to see. And the first offense that gets clicking and has the right plan is the team that's going to actually just pull away with it. Because even if you look at it, I mean, it makes sense. We are definitely going to be the toughest defense that they have faced this year so far. And on that left tackle spot, they're on their backup. I mean, that's Jarrell Casey, Harold Landry, Morgan on that side that they're going to have to deal with on that over there. And for a backup to have to deal with all that, unless they make really big adjustments like we did last week, I don't think they're going to be able to do that. And really big adjustments means not a whole lot of big down the field plays, a lot of check downs, but their running back is still kind of questionable in that position. And I really think we're going to be the team that starts our offense off right. Last week, the practice squad linemen held the defense in check, but it was just really quick plays. They weren't asked to hold the ball or hold their man for more than, a couple seconds. It was just don't make any penalties, keep them in front of you, give Blaine just a little bit of time, and we're going to do some quick plays. That's why we didn't have any many big plays. We had a couple medium plays, but most of them were very, very quick. Now that we got Lawan back, I think we're going to be able to stretch it out a little bit more so they can't just put 8 in the box or bring up all of their safeties or anything like that. It's going to open it up a little bit more. So I completely agree with all that. And I mean, I'm not a Bortles believer. Like, I don't see how people are. He does a few things really well, which is quick little slant routes, but I really feel like Pees and Vrabel will adjust to that if that's the kind of rhythm that he starts getting into, and shut that stuff down quick and force them to try and do something else, and we all know he can't. So
Yeah, I think Bortles knows that, and I think he's going to go into the game tomorrow knowing that this is going to be the toughest defense that he's faced. Now, to his credit, there were a couple of good throws. He placed the ball in good spots and allowed his receivers to make a play. But he can't do that on a consistent basis, man. I mean, he hasn't, at least. So for me, looking at the game, I think the battles in the trenches will be very telling. I think the Jaguars center has been dealing with an injury issue also. So he's not going to be 100%. But I'm not going to discredit any backup linemen who are playing for Jacksonville based off of what I saw our backup linemen do. I mean, you got Tyler Merritt, who went in there, and granted they were setting him up nice with providing him with a little bit of help blocking from the tight ends, or however the formations that they were running out of. They were positioned to mask any deficiency that he would have showed. They trusted Pamphile on the opposite side, and he did a pretty solid job too. He did a solid job. Now, tomorrow, if we wake up and we find out both Conklin and Luan are playing, we know Luan is, but if we find out Conklin's back, that changes the entire game, man. That opens up a ton of stuff, and I'm hoping that's what we wake up to. Another thing I wanted to touch on, man, is going to be the running backs, how they perform against Jacksonville tomorrow. I think our running back tandem could be the best that they faced, the best 1-2 punch so far. New England, they have a handful of running back by committee, and they, used all of them, all that were healthy against the Jaguars, and found a little bit of production, man. But you and I both know that offense runs through Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I want to see how they handle our running backs because I don't think they can. I think Derrick Henry has proven in history against them. I mean, he pretty much has dominated that defense when given the touches to dominate. Deion Lewis has shown what he can do to them last year in the AFC Championship. I mean, and you're going to have two of them, which the running backs are going to be the basis of the offense tomorrow. The offense is going to run through them whether or not Mariota plays or not. So to neutralize the secondary of the Jacksonville Jaguars, you run it down their throats because, okay, they could be great in pass coverage. They got solid players who can cover the pass really well and who are always in position. That's what discourages a lot of teams who aren't really so confident in their passing game to kind of slow it down, dial it back, and run the football. Well, the Tennessee Titans are comfortable running the football. We've seen that over the past 3 or 4 years. That's been our bread and butter for years, man. Right now, offensively, I mean, I can't say enough how much of an impact it had introducing the Wildcat last Saturday. I mean, we found out it was introduced last Saturday, the day before the game. Vrabel came up with the idea of incorporating some Wildcat into our offensive attack against the Texans because he did have an insider track of what would be the best way to attack the team and what would be some way they wouldn't be prepared for that kind of punch. And it showed. Derrick Henry, same play, 5 times, gaining chunks and chunks and chunks of yards, man. It really helped our second offensive drive really push the ball down the field. Will we see some Wildcat tomorrow? Possibly. I don't know. I guess a lot of that depends on the quarterback situation, how it pans out. I mean, I think we could still see some Wildcat if Mariota's active too, but I think it's going to, how the coaching staff is handling the preparation for each game is going to really start to show itself over the next few weeks, man. And each and every week, they're going to show that they're crafting their game plan based on their opponent's weaknesses, and they're going to calculate how they attack those weaknesses. I mean, the Bayer touchdown pass, man, that was phenomenal. And from what we've heard and what we've read, I guess that's something that Vrabel had told him since before the Miami game. Told him, if you get that look with 10 guys going to rush to block the kick, you throw it, you don't look at me, you don't nod at me, you don't give any kind of signal, you just throw the football. I trust you. I trust you. I mean, look at that, bro. Like, look what trusting your players does. Last year, we come from a team that was coached by Mike Mularkey, who we saw and sat through countless press conferences where he was pinning a lot of the blame on the players not executing the plays, not on the failures of coaching, but on the players not executing the plays. Vrabel is the exact polar opposite of that. He said in the post-game celebration, winning is never on the coaches. It's on the players, and losing is on the coaches. You know what I mean? Like, that's the kind of coach I want to play for, man. That's not going to blame me. That's going to say, okay, where did I go wrong? How could I have coached this better? How could I have prepared player X better for player Y, or whatever, however you want to spin it? The fact that we have coaches that are actually going to try to coach and put the work in, that's going to be the difference, man, moving on while we have kind of a shaky QB situation until that everything pans out there.
Yeah, definitely. And not only from a player standpoint, you got to think that when the coach steps up there and takes the bullet for you, it makes you want to play even harder for him at all times. And it also breeds that type of mentality in the locker room and like, okay, what kind of player do I want to be? What kind of person do I want to be in the NFL? I want to be like my coach. And that's just a great kind of... It's a great thing to model yourself after, that type of personality and that type of mentality. So I am really looking forward to the game and, this season, but also like down the road, like how it changes these guys from how they look at it. Because everyone knows, when the camera's in your face, like, oh, it's a team game, there's no I in team. We're all working on this together. And it's just the standard answers. But like to actually live it and to be about that life, you got to think that it's going to make changes that are behind the scenes that we don't see, practice squad or whenever they just even go out and just hang out together. Like, man, this coach is different, man. We got to change and we got to step up and we got to be like this because that's who I want to be like. So it's like that old thing of be the person you want to be like, be the change you want to see in the world kind of thing. Like, it seems like he's really kind of breeding that, and they follow through. And if they follow step, which I think they will, because they're all pretty high character guys, I mean, it's going to make and really no pun intended, but it's going to make a titanic shift in the organization. Well deserved.
Yeah. I mean, I think you're exactly right, man. Not sure if you saw that Taylor Lewan clip in the interview where he actually pointed out Vrabel had texted him Did you see that?
Yeah,
clip?
I did. He said, I didn't get that in 2015. It's like, ooh.
Yeah, he's never gotten it, bro. And I mean, how cool is that, bro? Like, to me, that's very telling because Luan knew he wasn't going to play since the beginning of the week, bro. And Vrabel told him flat out, hey, man, you're not playing. You know, don't even stress about the game because that's not going to help your recovery. You're not playing this week. Cut and dry. You know, very, very straight to the point, very direct. But we didn't know that, right? We were like, is Luan playing? Scratching our head. Who's playing with Kelly? Is Luan what? You know, we had an idea. Well, you know, he didn't practice all week. We had an idea towards the end of the week, but that wasn't made public knowledge until the end of the week leading up to Texans game. Yep. So that tells you a lot. Like, I mean, I know we've talked about it a handful of times on the podcast, man. People begging for injury updates, and I mean, we want to hear injury updates too, but we just got a little sneak peek into the mind of Vrabel and how he's going to prepare for the week and how his players will know what's up early in the week because that's going to help with their preparation. Luan knew he was out.
Yeah, he didn't have to stress about practices. He could just take it easy, you know, get better, be with his family, do that kind of stuff, and that's got to be appreciated. Like, if it's one of those, like, I'm kind of sore, I might wake up one day and feel a lot better, then that's one thing. But, I mean, Vrabel's gone through concussions. He knows what that whole life is all about, and it's just like, no. Like, don't stress about it. You're not playing. Like, nothing against you, but you're not playing. So I want you to just take the week off, basically. And those kind of bosses, and I mean, think about it in your job, in any job that anybody has. If you have a boss that cares enough about you to be like, no, go home. Like, I want you to get better. Take the time you need, get better, come back when you're feeling better, and then we'll hit it again at 100%. That's way better than the bosses who are like, oh, well, call me in the morning and let me know how you feel and like keep touch with me and stuff like that. I mean, it's just a different way of doing about things that make a really big difference.
Oh, yeah, I think you're right. It kind of reminds me to our interview we did with Teron Davenport where he said, and he pointed out that there's been a lot of emotional deposits that this coaching staff has been placing into the players, which from what he saw in Philadelphia yields tremendous results. Like he said, those players in Philly would run through a brick wall for Doug Peterson because of how he and his staff handled the day-to-day interactions. It didn't feel like just a business. You know what I mean? And I think we're starting to get that feel with our guys. I don't know about you, Lito, but when I was watching the game against the Texans, I was thinking this is a game a Mike Mularkey coach team would have probably lost. And would have probably lost handedly.
Yeah. It would have crumbled we would have been really hyped about it and like positive thinking, but as soon as I'll tell you what would have happened. If we would have, same situation, say we go up 14-7 or whatever, and then as soon as they pulled ahead, it would have been done. It would have been like, oh, well, I guess we didn't have as good of a game plan as we thought we did, and that would have been it. Like, I don't see them fighting back in a situation that close and that important, that intense, with backups all throughout. I don't think that would have happened. It would have been ugly.
It would have been ugly.
We'll pack it in and we'll look forward to next week.
That being said, you think about Mariota now. He's uncertain. I mean, we touched on it in the beginning of this episode. He's gotten majority of the snaps. Everything's looking optimistic, and that's all you can expect, man. Like what I'm getting so not necessarily angry about, but just annoyed with some things I've seen about Mariota, about his toughness being questioned. I can't stress this enough. This is not and has never been a toughness issue. It's not about playing through any kind of pain. The ulnar nerve injury is not about, oh man, he's made of glass. We just need somebody tougher. And what even gets me more aggravated is when they throw Steve McNair into the mix. Like, oh, McNair would have played through that. And this is no shot at McNair. I love him. One of my favorite Titans, if not all-time favorite Titans football players. But this is not something even McNair could have played through. It's not something you play through if it's your throwing hand. Like, the issue is not about whether he's feeling discomfort or pain. It's that he cannot physically grip the football. Like, having the injury, and me and you have talked even off script, bro. You know the injury I have. Same thing. And I've stressed this even on some episodes. It's not about how tough you are, how strong you are. It's about a nerve that is preventing you from doing things the normal way you would. And I think what we've seen and what we've read throughout the week has shown Mariota's exhausting all options. He's customizing gloves to try to see if that makes a difference. I mean, last week we saw him throw 15-yard floaters. This week, we've seen him pushing the ball deeper. It's a limited sample size, but it's showing progress. And fans who are already jumping off the cliff on Mariota, it's very, I can't comprehend that, man. I cannot comprehend that. You're going to choose to give up on the guy now when he had a freak injury, the second freak injury of his career. You're going to choose to give up on him now when we finally have the support system around him and the supporting cast who could take his game to the level we've been waiting for the previous 3 years? How does that make any sense, bro? How does that make any kind of sense?
It doesn't. I say just let him go. Like, if those fans want to pull off and, like, tuck tail and run and pull the chute already, go for it. Fine. We'll be right here whenever you realize that we're in the hunt for the playoffs and you want to come back and claim that you always were a Titans fan and you never left us. Like, whatever. I mean, deep down, you'll know. You'll know that you got scared and you backed off whenever it got a little bit crazy. But this is nerve damage. Nerve damage isn't something that you can do or fix or anything. It's just got to kind of go back to the way it was. I mean, like you said, he's exhausted all options, and it's not like he dove headfirst into a pile of J.J. Watt and Jadeveon Clowney and made a stupid decision. It was just a freak accident. Like, everybody just calm down, man.
Yeah.
Like, this is exactly the time where the switch is flipped. Everything is in place. We can definitely make a run at it. You're going to bail out now? Man, that's dumb.
Yeah, I mean, think about this. Think about it this way, man. Our quarterback is missing possibly his second game. All right, second game out of 3 possible games he could have played. He's possibly going to miss his second game due to a freak injury. And you've got the guy who was picked one spot ahead of him missing because he got handsy in a damn Uber car, bro. Like, who would you rather have? You know what I mean? Like, who would you rather have at this point in their career? If you're seeing Mariota out on Broadway Street in Tennessee drinking and going to the Cheesecake Factory without a shirt off and all this, think about all the things we've been through, man. And you're choosing to jump off of the cliff for a quarterback that has not only demonstrated impeccable character off the field, but on the field as well. Adoree pointed out something that kind of shed an inside look at Mariota that we've never seen. But he said Mariota was a key reason that got the group fired up before the Texans game. And this is a guy that knew he wasn't going to play, bro. This unless it was an emergency situation. We don't have to see, as fans, we don't have to be in those huddles or inside the locker room to know, or we shouldn't have to know what kind of guy this guy is and what kind of leader he is. We shouldn't demand he show your personality, show your aggression, show some emotion. Who are we? We do not have to demand that. As long as his teammates are seeing that and wherever the privileged information is shared, that's all that matters, man. So I'm off the soapbox now, but it was just really aggravating me, man. Some of the stuff I was seeing, like I don't understand it. But like you said, when Mariota is finally fully healthy and we start to see the progress that most of us expected under the new offensive system, we'll remember who you were.
Yeah, definitely. And I got one last thing, and I think people they see the Baker Mayfields and the crazy just flash kind of instant good, and they're like, oh my gosh, that's what our quarterback should be. And it's like, hold up, remember, he was that whenever he first came in the league. Like, he tied Fran Tarkington, and like his first game against the Bucks, he threw 4+ touchdowns, and it was just like, that was our quarterback. But you know, there's a natural order to things. Whenever there's a new skill set in town, nobody knows what to do, it blows up, and then the next season everybody's got tape on them and it kind of mellows out. Look at Deshaun Watson. People were calling him MVP candidate before the season even started, and we put him on his back how many times? Like, it's just like, it's not the way it goes. Dak Prescott, same thing. Jimmy Garoppolo, holy cow, he's the savior. Let's give him this gigantic contract. And now it's just like, this is the NFL, guys. Like, there's a flash. And as the difference is whether you can keep on an upward trajectory after that, after they have tape on you, after they know what you're all about, what you can do, what you can't do. If you can keep growing from there on, you're fine. Like, it's okay. Like, everybody just needs to calm down. We have one of the quarterbacks, on his best, to me, he's like a top 10, top 15 quarterback in the league, and I think he could be one of the new generation top 5s whenever everything's all said and done.
Yeah, the younger generation quarterbacks. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. But for right now, I mean, he's still on his rookie contract. He's never really had a full team and a good scheme, a consistent scheme built around him, and he's still just willed us to keep our head above water this entire time. Now you give him everything that every other quarterback, every other great quarterback has surrounding them, and show them, like, look, this is what we could be. And then he'll take it and run from there, man. But I think we're fine. I mean, people need to calm down.
Yeah, and for me, man, in no way am I a Mariota apologist at all. Like, if he'd been healthy up until now and had looked terrible, had been missing a lot of passes, one, I would say, well, the dude's still trying to figure out the offense, obviously, which Orlovsky even pointed out it does take a long period of time for a quarterback to master this specific type of offense. But he hasn't been healthy, man. He hasn't been healthy this far, so it's unfair to criticize him yet. I mean, he made some positive throws during the first half in Miami prior to the injury, and I mean, not every throw was perfect prior to the injury, but what quarterback does that? You know what I mean? Even Tom Brady has bad throws. So I take it with a grain of salt, man. Once he's fully healthy and goes through a good stretch this season of games, like say he's fully healthy by week 6, you start to measure him from week 6 on. Look at how his stats look. Look if you see any progress. Look how he's just been performing in the game. See if his chemistry is improving with his teammates. He's working against the grain here, man. He lost his tight end. He's having to watch instead of building rapport with Corey Davis, who we saw last week. He's going to start to break out, man. He is going to start to break out, and Mariota will finally have a true number one, or at least that's what it looks like.
Yep.
So don't give up on him yet, man. Please. If you're giving up on him, reconsider things, please. Be more patient. Remember everything you've been through with the franchise, all the quarterbacks we've been through, all the miserable times, all the bad times. Remember the glimpses of Mariota that you saw under a not so great coaching staff that made you think, man, if the right coaching staff was in place, this guy's game could be taken to the next level. Just focus on that and give him time to recover and get healthy, and then we'll see what happens. If at the end of the day I'm wrong, I'll eat crow. I've done it before. If I'm wrong about something, I'll admit it, because why lie about being wrong? You know what I mean? It makes no sense.
Yeah, I agree. All right, well, I'm completely ready for our boys to just shut up Duval for another few weeks. I don't know about you.
Oh, yeah, I could still hear Mitch Firkin's famous quote just echoing in my ears, man. I love that clip, man. But I'm looking forward to it, man. The first matchup against Jacksonville, I think even if we do win, we won't get the respect. They'll say, well, you know, Ramsey was struggling with an ankle. They'll point out all Jacksonville's injuries, but they probably will barely touch on ours. That's even if Mariota doesn't play. Nobody in the national media has pointed out that the Titans are hurting at so many key positions, man. But if it was another team that's constantly in the national news, in the national spotlight, you guarantee even their second string minor injuries would be blown out of the proportion.
Oh, yeah, they're going to find an excuse for anything if we beat them. Even if we beat them at full strength, it's going to be like, oh, well, the sun was in our eyes, and with, you know.
Exactly.
Whatever. Man. Like, they're that guy that you play with at the playground or the basketball courts. Like, oh, no, there was this going on and that going wrong. Just own up to it, man.
That's a slick spot on the court there, man. You know that? Yes, I know exactly what you're talking about. And being a fan of this team for all the years we've been fans of, bro, every time they get a key win, most recently I can think about the Kansas City game, or thinking about when we destroyed Green Bay a few years ago, mopped the floor with them. It was never, and it is never, the Titans won the game. It's always the opposite team lost the game. And here's why. And, you know, I'm numb to that already, man. I know other Titans fans are numb to that type of reporting already, too. But it's the life of a Titans fan, man. What can we say? Even our biggest wins will just be losses, depending on how the narrative goes for other teams.
Yeah. Yep.
I'm animated this episode, man. I'm hot about that stuff.
Oh, I get it.
I mean, the disrespect, man. The blatant disrespect.
Yep. I get it, man. I understand. No worries. Well, hopefully next week we'll be sitting here talking about just laughing. We'll just start the episode out by laughing.
Yeah. Hopefully not sobbing.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm hoping to get the win, man, and like you're aware of, I mean, the next time we play Jacksonville, God willing, I'll be in attendance, man. Me and my family, we're going to try to go hit up that game in December, so I'll be side by side with Mitch screaming his famous Duval quotes at the top of our lungs, man. So hopefully it goes well. kind of recap the episode here. Both of us are predicting the Titans win. I think your margin was close to 10 points too, right? You said 24 to...
I said 26-21. I figure we'll probably have a
26-21.
couple suck-up classics in there. But
Okay.
because I figured that the defense, once it gets smaller in the red zone, we're not going to be able to punch it in every single time. But, I mean, they have a respectable defense. There's no denying that. So I think once we get to the red zone, it'll kind of shrink a little bit. But we might have to settle for a field goal a couple times. I ain't worried about that. Suck-up's got a golden foot. So
yeah, I think it was on the RPO podcast that they pointed out, like, Suckup's been money. Suckup's been money every time he's been inside like 45 yards or something like that. So it's definitely comforting to see him, you know, kind of within that range. Even when he's pushing like 55 plus a little bit, we feel like we got a chance for him to make it through.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to that. I'm also going to look forward to seeing how the special teams unit performs in both first 2 weeks. They've been a difference, man. In Miami, unfortunately, they weren't the difference in a win. But if we can keep getting consistent special teams play, that's usually the difference, man, in a team that makes it further in the playoffs than another team, is if all units are performing, one being special teams. So I'm going to be focusing on special teams tomorrow. As always, we'll be focusing in the trenches, seeing who's winning those battles. Like Lito said, he's picking a more narrow win than me. I'm picking at least 10, depending on how it shakes out. That could change with new injury news that gets reported in the morning. I don't really have nothing, man. Next week we got Philly, so we'll try to record the show normally how we do on Wednesday evening, so we won't give you guys such a late in the week episode for those that listen. If you don't have anything else, man, I don't got nothing. Tighten up. Hopefully we get the win tomorrow against Jacksonville and keep it moving.
That's right. Tighten up.